Hey guys, the bowl I'm making today for my friends is a Niboshi Tonkotsu Chashumen with an umami-packed Niboshi and pork bone soup, paired with thin and slurpy whole wheat noodles, finally loaded up with 2 types of chashu and a touch of chili oil. So, I welcome you to episode 5 of Ramen for Friends. The soup today is a tonkotsu pork bone soup with a generous amount of niboshi dumped in at the end. Starting off with the pork bones, ideally you have a good mix of femurs and backs, but the butcher didn't have any femurs today, so in goes the backs into the pot. Then, after the usual scum skimming, let the soup go on a low simmer for a total of 12 hours. During this time, you want to add the pork belly for our Niibuta chashu. Since my log was quite big, I added mine at around the 7th hour to braise for roughly 2 hours. At this point, I also added some Seabura, which would take 3 to 4 hours to soften, depending on your preferences. Once the belly is tendered to a chopstick poke, I took it out and steeped it in our Shoyu Tare, which is composed of these ingredients. The Shoyu ratios I did is 2 parts Marudaizu, 1 part Koikuchi, and 1 part Shiro Shoyu. Then, steeping the kombu and the niboshi at 60 degrees until fragrant. Jumping back to the soup, at around the 10th or 11th hour, the seabura should have softened. So, transfer into a bowl and mash using a whisk. At this point, it's also time to add the niboshi. I'm using 2 types today, some iriko for its bitter sweetness, and some katakuchi iwashi, mainly for its aroma. Dump a generous amount into the soup and simmer for another hour before serving the soup fresh. Make sure to keep tasting throughout and find your sweet spot for next time. For today's noodles, I decided to incorporate some local whole wheat. The specs are 1.2% sodium carbonate, 1% salt, and 40% hydration. While the kansui cooled in the fridge, measure out your high protein flour as well as 5% whole wheat. Make sure to aerate the flour and mix in the whole wheat thoroughly before adding your kansui. As always, incorporate the kansui slowly and mix until fully incorporated before adding the next round. Once all the kansui has been fully incorporated, you want to continue mixing for 10 to 15 minutes to ensure an even mix, which should look like this. Then, transfer the sobro into a Ziploc bag and step it into an even sheet, making sure to give both sides a good stepping. Let this rest for 1 hour to relax the gluten. After resting, cut open the bag and release the sheet onto a cutting board. Then, use a knife to split the sheet in half lengthwise and work with 1 half at a time. Take a rolling pin and thin out the sheet slightly to put less pressure on the rollers, rolling through setting 0 of the marcato down to setting 3 without skipping any dials. Repeat the same for the other sheet and stack them on top of each other to laminate. Roll the laminated sheet through setting 0 down to setting 3 once again and fold over to laminate. Repeating this for however many times your gluten allows. Personally, I did 4 laminations. Then, roll the dough sheet up onto a rolling pin and let it rest once again for 30 minutes to relax the gluten. After the second rest, I rolled the dough sheet to setting 5 and cut using the tagliolini cutter. Lengthwise, I went for around 30 centimeters, cut and dust with rice flour. Then, measure out 140 gram portions and lay on a cloth-lined tray. These guys had the slurpy surface texture you'd look for, as well as a hint of nutty whole wheat aroma that was a great pairing for our bold and punchy Niboshi Tonkotsu. I have this beautiful pork shoulder that was salted and left uncovered in the fridge overnight. First, you want to take some lard from the soup and drizzle a generous amount over the whole chunk. Place this into a 150 degrees Celsius oven to slowly roast until you reach an internal temperature of around 45 degrees Celsius. Then, take out and let rest until 50 degrees. While it's resting, turn up your oven as high as it can go. Meanwhile, drizzle even more lard on top of the pork, as this is what will generate the smoke. Then, return the pork to the oven on full blast until smoke from the lard starts circulating around the oven. At this point, turn the oven off and let the shoulder smoke for around 10 to 15 minutes. This beauty is what you end up with, aiming for an ideal temperature of 63 to 65 degrees Celsius. Intention-wise, the diced onions will steep into the soup to introduce a layer of mellow sweetness. Key point here is to soak them in cold water to remove its pungency. For aroma, we have the inner layers of Negi Whites cut into squares, while the outermost layers and cores can go into the chili oil, which I use Ichimi Togarashi for the spice and Korean gochugaru for the color. Then adding hot neutral oil and lard infused with aromatics. Finally, slice both the Niibuta belly and the smoked chashu before serving. And now that everything is ready, let's put a bowl together, shall we?
賢く見せても肝心なことは言えなくて冷たい視線だけでふらふらこのまま見えすぎた愛のすり減るばかり使い古したセリフを得る敵探して争う無謀美に
Hey Miranda, back for round 2 today.
I am.
How was it?
It was so good. Really happy to get another invite from Chit.
Let's go.
Always a pleasure when I get the tag saying from Chit like, are you free Sunday, Monday, Tuesday?
Let's go.
I just know that I will have a
Lab
really,
Rat Sundays.
really good meal.
Thank you for coming.
No,
We'll see
thank
you again soon. We'll see you again soon.
Of course. Always happy to be here.
Thank you, Miranda.
このストーリー